called the reptilian brain. It's responsible for breathing, circulation, and digestion. Then this is the second brain. It's called a mammalian brain. It's responsible for the fight or flight response, or the freeze fight or flight response. And then this is the third brain, responsible for all those higher mental functions I spoke about, ideation, willpower. In fact, this part of the brain is responsible for self-control. It's responsible for impulse control, empathy, decision-making, planning, foresight. This is called the human brain. This is the part of the brain that is the most important part of the body. Now, however, please listen to this. Humans are in a tussle between the second brain and the third brain. When this brain comes alive, this brain shuts down. And when this place shuts down, this place comes alive, vice versa. Now, why am I saying this? Let me give you an example. This is the emotional brain. This second brain is the emotional brain. So we get angry with this brain. When we get angry, guess what? Our thinking brain shuts down. So when Novak Djokovic gets angry, what does he do? He smashes his tennis racket on the floor and is disqualified. So in a fit of anger, he makes a poor decision making, because this is the decision making brain, but this is the emotional brain. So when this part comes alive, decision making shuts down, and then you can't take great decisions. But that's anger. What about fear? I've coached so many people. I was coaching a pop diva 3-4 years ago, and she said, I was coaching her on this, and she said it's true. She was going to perform the national anthem, and there were so many world leaders, and she was afraid, and she forgot the national anthem. Because this is the memory and remembering brain. This is the fear brain. Without this brain, if a lion is coming at you, you won't be afraid and run. It's called the fight, flight, or freeze brain. So it's necessary, but only when there's a threat. But human beings spend more time in this brain, and so they become less functional, less productive. So when you are angry, this part comes alive, this part shuts down. When you are fearful, this part comes alive, this part shuts down. Let's look at other emotions. What about when a person is infatuated? This is the emotional brain. Boris Becker, tennis legend, he said the worst mistake he made in his life was impregnating Russian model Angela Amakova. He says that I was just thoroughly infatuated. They had sex in a London restaurant, in a wardrobe. But in that infatuation, this brain shuts down. So in retrospect, he said that was the worst decision I made in my life. But because the thinking brain shuts down in that moment, and he calls it the worst 8 minutes of his life. So if you understand how the brain works, and you spend more time building this, and the beauty of the brain is that as you build this part begins to have a stronger hold over this part. So let's say a human being starts out at 60% higher brain, 40% lower brain, and you build to 80%. What will happen is that this will shrink to 20%, which means that you have a stronger hold. Your higher brain has a stronger hold over your lower brain. But guess what? We have performed scans on the most dangerous recidivist of all time, Jeffrey Dahmer, Richard Ramirez, Ted Bundy. We found out that this part of the brain was very large. The feeling brain was very large. So the worst criminals have undergone brain scans, and we see that this part is very, very large. So if you can strengthen this part of the brain, this part begins to shrink. Let me tell you how the brain works. Let's look at the brain of a pregnant woman, for example. When a woman becomes pregnant, the structure of her brain changes. Now there's a part of the brain called gray matter. Gray matter is responsible for social interaction and connection. When a woman becomes pregnant, gray matter shrinks automatically so that she can pay more attention to her child, so that she can connect with the needs of her child, and so that she can be sensitive to whatever dangers may be lurking without. actually. Now, when Gabriel matter shrinks, what happens is that she becomes less socially interactive. That's why when a woman gets pregnant, they may not be as friendly as before, because something is hard. They have to pay more attention or give more energy to carrying the baby that they're carrying. And that tells you something about life in general. That energy is not created or destroyed. It's either is only transferred or transformed. Now, but what that means in the brain is that when you build your higher brain, your lower brain begins to shrink. It becomes less powerful over you. So you may be an impulsive spender. When you begin to build your self-control and impulse control brain, you begin to have stronger control over impulsive spending. It could be binge eating, whatever it is. So by understanding your brain, you can actually master your life. Okay, then the next thing I want to talk about is this. I said that in this